27 per 100,000 population. In 2019, the mortality rate was reported at 27.4 deaths per 100,000 women in this country. In fact, Trinidad and Tobago has the second highest breast cancer mortality rate in the Caribbean region. These statistics underscore the critical need for enhanced breast cancer awareness, early detection through regular screening, and improved treatment options to reduce the disease's impact on our female population. Today, we speak to Dr. Liron Oliver to get the facts on breast cancer diagnosis and the treatment options currently available in Trinidad and Tobago. What if I told you there's a vitamin that keeps your eyes sharp, your skin glowing, and your immune system strong? Meet vitamin A, a powerhouse nutrient that plays a vital role in your overall health. Sharp vision. Vitamin A is essential for maintaining good eyesight, especially at night. It helps produce a pigment called rhodopsin, which allows your eyes to adjust in low light conditions. Immune system support. This vitamin strengthens your body's immune system, helping to fight off infections and illnesses. It keeps the linings of your respiratory and digestive tracts healthy, blocking harmful bacteria and viruses. Healthy skin and cells. Vitamin A promotes skin cell growth, prevents dryness, and even helps with acne. It also supports the health of your internal organs by ensuring proper cell regeneration. So where can you get vitamin A? Carrots, the ultimate eye food. Sweet potatoes, packed with beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A. Spinach and kale, green powerhouses full of nutrients. Eggs and dairy, great sources of retinol, the active form of vitamin A. Vitamin A is fat-soluble, which means your body stores it, but too much of it, especially from supplements, can be harmful. Stick to natural food sources for the perfect balance. For better vision, stronger immunity, and healthier skin, make vitamin A a part of your daily diet.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5427.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
So we're here to talk about breast cancer. Breast cancer in Trinidad and Tobago is very common. 1 in 8 women would receive a diagnosis of breast cancer in her lifetime. And breast cancer in Trinidad is unique in that we have one of the more aggressive forms of breast cancer in Trinidad worldwide. Tell me, Doc, in your practice, how often do you see breast cancer and what age groups are you seeing it now?
So I think my data is going to be a bit more skewed than other people because I work in the public system, which is like a tertiary center.
Yeah.
So most of the breast cancers are referred to me. But, you know, and then generally on the private sector as well, most of the breast cancers are referred to me. So all I really see is breast cancer. But definitely I can say from when I first started just focused on breast cancer about 3 years ago, is definitely you can see a steep incline and rise.
Yep.
And I'm generally, I don't have data to quote it, but I think I would like to say that there are more younger patients being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And those are patients under the age of 40. I'm thinking your practice as well, I'm sure that you see and diagnose a lot more patients at a younger age.
Absolutely. And do you find too that we're capturing women at more advanced stages when they're already spread?
Yeah, I think that's multifactorial. I think that's based one on culture. And that's why we are spending this time to have this discussion.
Yeah.
And it's also based on the principle of not having a screening system where patients at a fixed age, let's say age 40, age 50, I recommend age 40, but we'll discuss that later on. At age 40, you get that note saying you have to go for your screening. And once you screen, you pick, the principle of screening is picking up something before it becomes clinically apparent.
Right.
So we pick up a disease before it becomes a solid mass, before it invades the skin.
Correct.
So the presentation, the stage of it is going to be at an earlier stage. So when we talk about stage, we talk about the presentation, if it's involving the skin, the size of it, if it's involving the lymph nodes. We want to pick up a lesion that is not palpable. We want to pick up a lesion that you pick up on a mammogram. Just some abnormality or some asymmetry on a mammogram, not a lesion itself.
So I like that, the fact that you brought up screening. So as you said, screening is supposed to be a test that's easily applied, very cheap, very affordable, and reproducible, and high sensitivity and specificity. And it's supposed to pick up disease before it shows up. No signs, no symptoms. In your practice, because we're now talking here about an increased number of women at a younger age are presenting with breast cancer, it is my firm belief, and I want to hear your opinion, but we should probably alter our perception, tweak or modify the criteria of the age at which we start screening. Would you advocate, or do you think there is merit in starting screening before 40?
Well, I mean, the big controversy in breast cancer screening, with the only tool being mammogram for screening, was 50 to 40. We now made the transition in 2023 to 40. So I don't think we're going to make the transition beneath that, but our practice in Trinidad, I think, there's no documented data that showed the only screening modality we can do is things like self-breast examination or clinical exam, but that data hasn't shown.
Ultrasound is so soft and easy, fast, cheap, affordable, and good hands, in a good radiologist's hands. You are able to pick up lesions that are as small as 1.5 millimeters and be able to determine whether solid is cystic, suspicious or not.
Texture and all of that. From
right.
That,
so my concern is, why don't we offer that for the younger woman, the woman between 20 and 40, captured, because it's no harm to them at all.
So, I understand that. From a literature standpoint and a data standpoint, and we have to have standards. Standards, the only screening is mammogram. The point of doing an ultrasound scan at an earlier age, I do understand we can do that, but I think it even starts before that. It starts with self-breast examination, being aware of your breast. At age 30, at age 25, you examine your breast a fixed time every month. And if you find abnormality, then you lean towards an ultrasound scan. But I think that's to start an ultrasound scan, that's vaguely. I think it may be a bit abuse of it. I think I can understand probably at age 35 or at age 30, you start just doing a simple ultrasound scan. When you see a gynecologist or you see a GP, they examine it. If they feel an area of abnormality, then we proceed to an ultrasound scan. But yes, definitely. But again, ultrasound to an extent, in your expert hands, they may be capable, but ultrasound is very user dependent.
Absolutely.
So if you do an ultrasound scan, I don't push my words properly, I will probably be more keen on your results versus someone else who is so user dependent. So someone might give out results and say there's no abnormality, which I have seen. And then I do my own ultrasound and I see abnormality. You understand? So it has to have some sort of standardization to that as well if we head down that route, because you may have variability. I may have this false negative rates that may be higher in certain hands in comparison to your hands.
So we're talking about screening, self-examination being one of it, mammogram, which we're going to start for women. It's supposed to start at the age of 40, and we're doing it annually.
But even before that, so the issue about doing a mammogram before the age of 40 is the density of the breast. But they have the new 3D mammograms now. So when we talk about density of the breast, you have A, B, C, and D, with more dense breast being C and D, more than 75, more than 50% of the breast being glandular dense tissue. 3D mammogram is awesome for that now.
Yeah.
So a 3D mammogram might even be more applicable in a patient at a younger age of age 35. But that's only indicated in a patient who probably have a high risk, you know, potential screening. But yes, at age 40, we should definitely do these screening mammograms.
Do you think our screening program in our health system is meeting the needs of the woman? A little bit of a tongue-in-cheek.
I know, right? I work in the public, right? Definitely, I think we don't have a screening program. I can say that safely. That's one of the things I would like to see if I can push over the next 20 years in my career. But to have a screening program, you need infrastructure. And infrastructure means that mammogram, we probably need to have at least 10 to 15 mammogram machines where we could have a system where every woman at a particular age, let's say 40, they get an email, say you go to XY, you go to Tunapuna, or you go to Point Lisa, so you go to have you and you get your mammograms.
Yeah.
And then we have a central system with doctors like yourself reading these mammograms and calling back.
And timely reporting, you know? Yeah, I get you.
But to set that screening program, you need infrastructure. And so what we have now is patients seeking their own screening, you know, and there's no Caribbean country that has a screening protocol. So in Canada, the person who actually set up a screening program in downtown Toronto is actually a Trinidadian from Tunapuna. So that's what some of the discussions I had with him, and those are the basic things he said you need to have before you even start screening. Like that. And he said we should probably start in a certain region. So we start like in the west, so we start in the east, and then set up that program and then expand gradually. So those are things we have to look forward to.
Very doable, very doable, yeah.
But obviously it's cost and infrastructure to set up.
Okay, and the will.
And they will, yes.
All right. So for the women out there, and even the men out there who are looking on, what sort of signs and symptoms should they be looking for if they suspect, or even doing their self-examination if they suspect, you know, breast cancer?
So before I would say, you know, we start self-breast examination in a patient who has still seeing her monthlies 7 days after a period, because that's when the breast is less dense. And for women who are post-menopausal, then I would say pick a fixed day every month and examine yourself. What you're looking for pretty much is any skin dimpling, and skin dimpling is where there's tugging on the skin. Something within the breast is drawing the skin inwards. You could have some erythema or redness to the skin.
Right.
You could have this orange peel appearance to the skin. You could have sometimes a rash on the nipple itself, or erosion of the nipple, or even sometimes the nipple can be inverted. Yeah, and it's all this may be unilateral, meaning one breast versus both breasts. You could also have a gland swollen in the armpits. You can feel a mass in the armpits, and just general asymmetry of the breast. You know, you find that the breast it looks different, and that's where being aware of your breast is important, because if you are aware of your breast, you can recognize a change.
Correct.
I don't want you to come and, I don't want you to come and say, "Doc, I have a tumor." I want to say, "Doc, something is different," and then we seek consultation. We send off to you guys. We get an imaging, because any issue with the breast starts with triple assessment. So we take a good history, a good examination. That's one, and then we do radiological investigation, which is our stronger mammogram.
Right.
And then we do a tissue diagnosis, which is a biopsy.
Yeah.
And that's the principle. And sometimes one of my pet peeves is patients going for imaging, and they go for an ultrasound scan, let's say, and it comes back normal.
Yeah.
They don't seek a consult. So I have seen patients already with normal imaging, and then when I put my hand on the breast, I focus on a particular area and I find an abnormality. So I think there always needs to be a mesh of a clinical exam with radiological investigations.
Absolutely, but then but then we have to have this organized system of multidisciplinary
but I think also the patients needs to be educated in the sense that if I have an imaging, they should get someone to review it.
I think so, absolutely. Yeah, you don't know what are they going to do with a report, a radiological report that has a medical jargon. How do they interpret that?
Exactly.
What does it mean? It's the same thing like a biopsy report. It's very important. It's critical that patients sit down with their doctor, whoever referred them for the biopsy,
and go through
it. Explain
even though it's normal.
Yeah.
A normal result is a good thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes knowing a normal result gives you a baseline.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we do imaging, we do it for baselines. So when we compare you a year from now, we know that it's a change from the baseline.
Correct.
So having a clear understanding of your baseline is important for you moving forward as well.
Right. So now in the public setting that you work in St. James.
Which is awesome.
You guys offer something that's incredible, I believe, I would say, in terms of reconstructive surgery for women. So women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, and will have to undergo mastectomy, removal of the breast, for part of their treatment.
Yeah.
We do reconstructive, we offer reconstructive surgery as well.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a little bit more information about that?
You know, I probably have a terrible personality because I always like to summarize everything before. I think that's just the surgeon in me. So even before I reach to a mastectomy, I will talk about breast conservation, because you could have reconstruction in breast preservation, and then you could have reconstruction when you remove the breast.
Right.
So I rarely offer mastectomies now, because I think 60% of my patients, I do reconstruction with their own breast tissue, what we call oncoplastics. So we remove the tissues and we mobilize their own breast tissue or tissues surrounding to reconstruct the breast. So that's oncoplastics. So we do a lot of that in St. James as well. So that's called oncoplastic surgeries. We have different levels where you can mobilize your tissue around, or sometimes I bring flap from alongside your breast, or flaps from the back, or flap from the abdomen to reconstruct the breast. So that's one element of reconstruction. The other element that you're focusing on is what we call mastectomies. So mastectomy is when you remove the skin, the nipple, the breast tissue, and we don't remove the muscle. In the past, we used to do this brutal thing where we used to call a radical mastectomy. We remove all the chest muscles, remove all the breast, the skin, all the lymph nodes. Now we do what we call a modified radical mastectomy. We remove the breast tissue, the skin, the nipple, but we preserve the muscle and remove a certain level of the lymph nodes. But there's so much different types of mastectomies we can do now.
Okay.
So you have a skin sparing mastectomy where we preserve some skin, and then we have a nipple sparing mastectomy where we preserve the nipple, and that allows us the opportunity for reconstruction. Certain patients are not allowed to have reconstruction. We are pushing the limits, but the guidelines now are we should not do reconstruction in these patients, and these are patients with that orange peel appearance where more than a third of the breast is involved, and that's inflammatory breast cancer. So now getting to your question, I'm sorry. So we have skin sparing mastectomy and we have nipple sparing mastectomy. So what we basically is preserving the envelope to reconstruct. Now we can reconstruct with implants, which is called alloplastic, or you can reconstruct with your own tissue, which is called autologous tissue. All right. And if we're doing a nipple sparing mastectomy, we can put, and we do an autologous, where we're actually using your own tissue. You can do things like a DF flap or a tram flap. You bring tissue to fill the defect, or we use implant.
Okay.
And so reconstruction can be two-stage. It can be
I was now going to ask that.
So it can be one stage where we do the reconstruction in one go, where we literally
at the same time you do the removal of the breast.
Or we can do a two-stage reconstruction where we remove the breast tissue and we put an expander in. So for example, in skin sparing mastectomy, because you're removing some of the skin, to get that distension or that size breast mount, the breast you want to have afterwards, we need to put a balloon to stretch the skin. So that's the first stage. And then after the patient has finished their treatment.
How long they have to use the tissue expander?
So generally it depends on how large we want to expand the breast.
Okay.
We generally expand for about 60 to 100 cc's of liquid every 2 to 3 weeks. And then as we reach your maximum in probably about 2 to 3 months, I'll let you settle for about 6 weeks to 2 months. Let the skin stretch, because if I go and remove that balloon, it's going to recoil.
Yeah.
Let it stretch. And then sometimes we wait for the patient to have their radiation therapy if it's deemed necessary. And we don't really operate until about 6 months after the radiation therapy. And once we have completed that, it allows us the second stage, which sometimes allows a better cosmetic outcome, because it allows me the opportunity to resurface and restructure the shape of the breast and then put the permanent silicone implants.
Okay.
So that's the 2 stage. And then the 1 stage obviously is where we can put an implant in one time. And that's what we tend to do sometimes in nipple sparing. And what a nipple sparing mastectomy is, basically we make an incision which allows us to keep the vasculature of the skin, to keep the nipple alive. And we put an implant in and allows. You know,
that's
really,
without the involvement of the cancer involvement of the nipple. That's the only time you would preserve the nipple. So
generally the guidelines are once you have a tumor within 2 centimeters of a nipple, you should not do a nipple sparing. But we know we are pushing the limits even more. Sometimes if I have like within 2 centimeters, what I will do is, but it's clear separation from the nipple areolar complex, I will do a biopsy behind the nipple and send that off for testing. Okay. If that comes back positive, then we remove the nipple. Yeah, but allows the patient the benefit of saving the nipple.
Right.
But if it is that we don't save the nipple and we do a skin sparing, then we have options, sort of nipple reconstruction. We have 3D nipple tattooing, you know.
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we can do nipple reconstruction where you actually do sort of an origami of the skin. And then we do a 3D tattoos, where you do tattoos on the nipple, which create that texture and appearance.
And all this we offer in St. James?
We don't have the nipple tattooing as yet.
Okay.
But one of my junior staff is actually coordinating with someone for us to get that opportunity. And it's something that a skill set that I want to learn as well. Yeah.
All right. And this is all free of charge. It's offered to every single woman who has to undergo surgery.
We try as best as possible to offer each patient the opportunity of reconstruction. But again, the decision is not all made by us. It's really dependent on what the patient desires.
Okay.
Some patients may come with the anxiety that I just want the breast off. Yes. I will give them the best advice, since there's no need to do it. But sometimes they, in a sense, want something, and we have to, abide by what the patient wants.
I'm sure it's the younger demographic that would require or request the preservation of the breast as much as possible.
Yeah, but it's also a dogma. It's something that the country we have grown up with. Once you hear a lady down the street had breast cancer, remove the breast, it's no longer acceptable. You must offer patient reconstruction, and the belief is that when you remove the breast, you're going to live longer, your survival is going to be greater. There are actually some studies now that show that when we preserve the breast, the survival is slightly greater in patients who preserve the breast versus patients who lose their breast. The reason behind that may be patients who preserve their breast tend to have radiation and tend to have some additional treatments.
Yes.
And that may have a benefit of increasing their overall survival.
Okay. That's incredible to know. I had no idea we did such extensive reconstructive surgery.
St. James is awesome.
Yeah.
I really think it's something that fulfills.
A lot of people need to know about this.
It fulfills the passion of what I think I want to do. Allows me the opportunity to preserve breasts and to bring my artistic nature and to try to recreate breasts with implants or even tissues. It really is something that is awesome.
Fantastic.
And not only that, not just myself and not just my other consultants there as well. The team, the nursing staff, the clerical staff, everybody work hand in hand.
Yes.
It's an environment where everyone have felt a patient going through cancer, and there are patients there who have gone through cancer, and it's an environment that is focused strictly on breast cancer. So I think it's ideal.
Very patient-centered.
Yeah, but there's a lot of patients. I would not beat around the bush. One of my fears when I went to St. James was if I would have gotten numbers, because I want to do what I was trained to do.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
You got more than you bargained for.
Yeah, the number of patients are crazy. And we willingly accept more, but it's just restriction in the public system sometimes.
Yeah.
There's so much patients.
There's so much we could talk about with respect to breast cancer. I'm so sorry you ran out of time.
No, it's not already.
Yeah, I know. And there is so much more that we need to get out there in terms of informing the public about what to do, as you say, with the screening and the vast diversity of treatment that is offered for the patients. But before we go, like I tell all my patients, all my guests, if there's one piece of advice, one golden nugget of information that you would like to share with the viewers before you leave on breast cancer, what would that be?
I always say breast awareness, but I think one thing that comes to mind right now is that breast cancer, you may have a lump in your breast that is not causing you pain, and you may have that lump for a period of time. That does not mean, we as humans, we believe that if we don't have pain, we don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Breast cancer is one disease process where you may not have pain and it may be actually a cancer that is growing. So I will always say seek triple assessment, seek your physician, get that examination, get that history, get that radiological investigation, and get a tissue diagnosis to confirm that there's nothing else going on there.
Great.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank
I wish we had more time.
I'll talk to my producers.
All right, definitely. All right, thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks.
My name is Dr. Joanne Williams-Carroll, and I am the Director of Behavioral and Mental Health at the Community Hospital. At the Community Hospital, we believe in nurturing mind, body, and soul. Through our counseling and chaplaincy program, we will provide you with support and strength you need to help with your mental and emotional well-being. Give us a call.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. I mean, and Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
It's important that we choose the right foods to eat and in the right combination. Today we are joined by Chef Emmanuel from Food Hall, who's going to show us a budget-friendly meal option called Veggie Stir-Fry Fried Rice. Gorgeous, it's healthy, and if you wish, you could have added some grilled chicken to that, to again add some more protein into your meal. This is a complete one-pot meal. It's got proteins, carbs, but the healthy carbs, and it's flavorful.
The Caribbean has some of the highest rates of overweight and obesity in the Americas.
Parents are usually meticulous about what goes into their children's mouths from 0 to 1 year, but then something happens after 1 year when we say to them, eat from the family pot. Somehow the family pot extends to snacks, both sugary and salty, soft drinks and candies of all descriptions.
WESN.
It's time now for French Connections, our look at the intricacies of life here in France with Solange Mougin. Hi, Solange.
Hi, Dini.
Today you're focusing on urbanism in France, and in particular French shopping areas outside of big cities and towns. Now, the government says many of them are obsolete, but they're also very well loved.
Yeah, every single day in France, there are on average 7 million people who go to shopping centers. Now, the French love their centres commerciaux, or their shopping malls and strip malls, and they actually bring in over 70% of revenue for physical in-store commerce. Now, compared to Germany, where that figure is at around 30%, that's a lot of love for both indoor malls and outdoor strip malls that are often just outside towns.
Se garer facilement, tandis que la ville, bon, faut déjà descendre en ville, trouver à se garer, payer le parking.
Quand il fait mauvais, on est mieux dans les centres comme ça que dans les boutiques extérieures.
On peut venir en voiture étant donné que je suis en campagne. C'est plus facile pour moi en fait.
On dépense déjà moins.
Plus ça ressemble à un entrepôt, plus on a de chances de trouver des trucs à moins cher. Si c'était beaucoup plus vert et que ça reste à des prix attractifs, ça ne me dérangerait pas.
Now, concerned about how these centers are aging, the government in late March 2024, well, they selected 74 of these shopping zones, and they attributed a total of $26 million to them, which is part of a program to rethink how these malls and shopping centers are used.
And in French, it's funny, they actually have a nickname, which isn't quite the nicest one.
No, it is not a pretty one at all. These zones, especially ones that are outside of towns, well, they are called La France moche. And this is, I know, this is our expression du jour, and it literally translates to ugly France. Now, there's been a pushback against this expression because it is an aesthetic judgment call. Nonetheless, since the magazine Télérama, they coined this expression in a 2010 issue on urban sprawl. Well, it's often been used to describe warehouses and strip malls, mostly in the press, advertising signs as well, it describes, and even light pollution that have popped up across the country in just over half a century. Now, to raise awareness about this largely unregulated, at least on a national level, an association actually gives out a prize yearly on the ugliest areas.
Voici la photo, celle qui a convaincu le jury. Nous sommes au cœur de la zone commerciale d'Aubière, l'une des portes d'entrée de la ville. Ici, forcément, cette photo fait réagir.
Je ne sais pas si ça mérite un prix, mais enfin, en tout cas, c'est une belle pollution visuelle.
Je trouve pas ça beau, moi. Moche. C'est lamentable d'en être là. Mais je ne le remarque pas parce que c'est rentré vraiment dans nos habitudes.
Now, these shopping areas are also known to create competition for smaller shops and can cause problems in downtown areas, but this is a dynamic that's not a new one.
It isn't. With the boom of mega stores and consumerism and sort of an American model of shopping that took off in the 1960s, there was concern about the effect that such big supermarkets, or hypermarchés as we call them here in France, the effect that they would have on downtown mom-and-pop shops. Like in other nations, many of them closed down in France, and even some shopkeepers, though, despite this, some shopkeepers, they were philosophical at the time.
Dans la vie, tout le monde a sa corde à jouer. Le soleil brille pour tout le monde. Il faut des grands magasins pour des personnes qui aiment le grand magasin, qui aiment rentrer par une porte, sortir par une autre. Et vous avez le petit magasin. Il y a toujours des personnes qui même un conseil.
Now, how, what, and where people buy things, it's constantly shifting. With COVID, inflation, and stagnating consumerism today, many businesses, they've had to abandon higher rents, which are often in city centers, much to the frustration of some shoppers and some shop owners, too.
Nous nous apprêtons à tourner la page. Comme nous, pour le magasin, on va tourner la page.
Un commerce dans un centre-ville avec une ou deux personnes dedans n'a pas suffisamment les reins solides pour tenir 2 ans face à un mastodonte comme un centre commercial de cette dimension.
Le petit commerce n'est plus aussi dynamique qu'il l'a été.
And it's not just downtown areas that are struggling to adapt to the times. The shopping centers themselves are having to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, when it comes to downtown areas, the government actually has another program in place. It is called Action Cœur de Ville, with a budget of 5 billion euros until 2026. It's meant to help city centers become more inviting places. And the program is largely motivated by climate change, just like the shopping center program is as well. It aims to stop, in regard to shopping centers, these areas from renewing their look in the way that they used to, or by expanding into surrounding agricultural land.
Aujourd'hui, il est impératif que nous transformions ce site, sauf à péricliter dans les prochaines années, parce qu'on est entouré de grands pôles commerciaux qui, eux, ne nous ont pas attendus.
In 2021, amidst land use concerns over all of this concrete, be it in regard to heat, runoff, or biodiversity, the government froze new permits on very large shopping areas on the periphery of towns. This was for environmental reasons, but also because the industry is saturated and there's increased competition online shopping. In 2023, there were no new shopping centers opened in France. In 2024, there's only one. Instead of new areas, the government actually wants these aging malls to become smaller and to diversify with gyms, doctors' offices, and also potentially houses to tackle France's housing problems.
You know, Solange, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I guess that goes for shopping centers as well.
Yeah, it sure does. And France's authority on architecture, the Bâtiments de France, they even agree with this. Their Historic Monuments Department designated in 2011 a shopping mall in Sens, France, as a historic monument. It was designed by the architect Claude Parent, and for shoppers at another one of his malls, which was also in the running, well, they think the idea of it becoming a treasured landmark was a bit out of this world.
historique. Le monument inscrit au patrimoine historique, celui-là.
Je ne savais pas que ça pouvait être un jour un monument historique, mais le fait est qu'il est spécial.
C'était une époque aussi de nouveauté pour ce type de bâtiment-là. On n'a pas construit de centre commercial avant les années 60, enfin 50, je crois, le premier, fin des années 50. Donc il y a une nouveauté.
Now, mush or beau, ugly or pretty, urban planning is a reflection of the times that we live in. Perhaps future generations will look at the little boxes, be they houses or malls, and see them like we see middle-aged cathedrals as a testament of our era.
Oh, thanks for that, Solange, for that look at La France Moche. Don't forget, if you want to get a closer look at this French Connections or any of the others we've had for you over the past years, you can always check it out on our website, france24.com.